The NHL has seen its fair share of teams over the years. Let's go over the 21 that don't exist anymore, starting with number 1, the Atlanta Flames. The first attempt at hockey in Atlanta was the initial version of the Flames. The team managed to make the playoffs 6 out of its 8 seasons. However, these Flames went just 2-15 in the postseason. After the average attendance was a little more than 14,000 during the second season, the Atlanta Flames struggled to draw 10,000 fans per game by the end of that decade. Due to stagnant play and poor attendance, eventually led to the franchise being sold to Calgary for a then NHL record of $16 million in May 1980. The Flames are still based out of Calgary. Number 2, the Atlanta Thrashers. The second attempt at hockey in Atlanta lasted marginally longer than the first one. During the 11 official seasons, the Thrashers made the playoffs 1 time. This came when Marian Hossa had 100 points, Ilya Kovalchuk had 42 goals, Kari Lehtinen had a goals against average of 2.79, which led the team to 43 wins and a Southeast Division title. However, they were swept by the New York Rangers in the first round. Financial problems and shortcomings ultimately led to the club being sold and relocated to Winnipeg prior to the 2011-2012 season. This became the second installment of the Winnipeg Jets. Number 3, the California Golden Seals. Before the team we know as the San Jose Sharks, who made a staple in the Bay Area, there were the Golden Seals. Also known as the California Seals, Oakland Seals, or Bay Area Seals, the franchise was part of the NHL's 1967 expansion, but only lasted 9 seasons. The Golden Seals were inconsistent on the ice with 2 playoff appearances and no winning seasons. They also had a problem with attendance. Following the 75 and 76 season, the franchise was moved and sold to Cleveland, where things got even worse. Number 4, the Cleveland Barons. When the California Golden Seals moved out of their Oakland home, the franchise found themselves in Cleveland, where the move seemed ill-fated from the beginning. The move was finalized in August of 1976, just months before the start of the season. The Barons were guided by Stanley Cup winning coach Jack Evans. They went 87-47-28 and pulled in about 5,000 to 6,000 fans during their 2 seasons before discontinuing operations. Before folding completely, the Barons merged with the Minnesota North Stars, another struggling franchise at the time. Number 5, the Colorado Rockies. After 2 seasons playing in Kansas City, the franchise known as the Scouts headed west to Denver, where the Colorado Rockies were born. However, their lifespan was short, only lasting 6 seasons. The Rockies never won more than 22 games in a season and only appeared in the playoffs 1 time. The NHL claimed to want a team to remain in Denver, but a poorly negotiated contract with McNichols Arena played a part in the franchise's inability to stay in the city. After many failed deals, owner Jack Vickers sold the club to New Jersey, and then Houston Astros owner John McMullen moved it to the Meadowlands and renamed the franchise to the New Jersey Devils. Number 6, the Hamilton Tigers. Not to be mistaken with the Hamilton Tiger Cats CFL team, these hockey tigers resided in Ontario during the first half of the 1920s. The roots of this club stem back to the Quebec Bulldogs, but on-ice struggles brought the Tigers to Hamilton. The team never won more than 9 games during their first 5 seasons. They went 19-10-1 during the 1924-25 season. They finished first during the regular season. However, irritated Tigers forced the NHL's first player strike prior to the playoffs. That was the end of Hamilton's NHL team, which was suspended from the league. A cluster of its players became part of the expansion New York Americans. Number 7, the Hartford Whalers. When it comes to NHL nostalgia, the Whalers hold special place in the hearts of hockey fans. The franchise started in Boston while in the World Hockey Association before moving to Hartford. Following the WHA-NHL merger, the Whalers lasted 18 years in the latter. The team made the playoffs 7 times, only winning 1 postseason series. By the mid-1990s, the team was sold to a group led by CompuWare CEO Peter Kermanos. Lack of attendance, no real corporate presence invested in the franchise, and issues with a financial term for a new arena led the franchise's move to Raleigh, North Carolina. Number 8, the Kansas City Scouts. Earlier, I mentioned the Scouts as the origin of the franchise that also played in Colorado and currently in New Jersey. The NHL history of the Scouts is dim and short-lived. In its 2 seasons, they went 27, 110, and 23 for a total of 77 points. During their Kansas City stay, they allowed almost 700 goals and averaged slightly more than 8,000 fans. That poor play, low attendance, and high-priced talent were all reasons for the team's sale and move to Denver. Number 9, the Minnesota North Stars. For a certain generation of hockey fans, the North Stars were a grinded-out blue-collar franchise who had a heated rivalry with the Chicago Blackhawks. The team received new life when it merged with the Cleveland Barons. They made 17 playoff appearances, including 2 trips to the Stanley Cup final while in Minnesota. However, fluctuating attendance, poor financial decisions, and constant drama, including owner Norm Green, were just a few reasons for the team's move from Minnesota to Dallas. This was quite shocking considering the state's passion for hockey. Eventually, the NHL would return to the state of hockey in the year 2000 as the Minnesota Wild. Number 10, the Montreal Maroons. Yes, the Canadiens were not the only game in town when it came to NHL action in Montreal. The Maroons were intended to cater to the English-speaking population of the city. However, both teams would be under the same ownership and shared the Montreal Forum, though the initial tenants were the Montreal Maroons. The team had success, winning the Stanley Cup in 1925 and 1935. They also made the playoffs 11 times. NHL greats like Clint Benedict, Toe Blake, and King Clancy played for the Maroons until it was unable to recover financially from the Great Depression. Number 11, the Montreal Wanderers. Likely forgotten, the Wanderers were in the shadow of the Canadiens and the Maroons. They lasted all of 6 games, 4 were decided on the ice and 2 were forfeits. When the NHL was suspended, the Wanderers became part of the new NHL. Despite winning multiple Stanley Cup finals, the Wanderers struggled to be competitive by 1917-1918. When their home at Montreal Arena burned down, owners decided to suspend the franchise. Number 12, the New York or Brooklyn Americans. After absorbing players from the Hamilton Tigers, New York City's first NHL team was born. The Americans represented the Big Apple for 17 seasons, but only managed to make the playoffs 5 times. They won twice while playing at Madison Square Garden. Constant financial struggles and World War II led to the end of the franchise. The Brooklyn Americans played their final season in 1941-1942. Number 13, the Ottawa Senators. Not to be mistaken with the current version of the Ottawa Senators, these Senators were a founding member of the NHL. Even before their NHL run, Ottawa was a successful Canadian hockey franchise. While in the NHL, the Senators won the Stanley Cup 4 times. Unfortunately, for many sports teams located in smaller cities during the time of the Great Depression led to many financial issues. The Ottawa Senators were doomed and relocated to St. Louis. Number 14, the Philadelphia Quakers. The entire existence of the Quakers was during the 1930-31 season. The franchise technically got its start in Pittsburgh. The team was temporarily moved to Philly while the Steel City could build a new arena for hockey. However, things became incredibly worse for the franchise in Philly, going 4-36-4 during that one season in town. The next time Philadelphia would see hockey wasn't until the Flyers took the ice in 1967. Number 15, the Pittsburgh Pirates. No, not the baseball team. There was an NHL team who happened to share the same name. The NHL Pirates won just 67 games in 5 seasons as a member of the league. Financial struggles and a pressing need for a proper arena were reasons the ownership moved to Philadelphia while trying to get this thing together to build a stadium. However, as I said earlier, the team played much worse in Philly. The Hockey Pirates never returned to Pittsburgh. Luckily for hockey fans in town, the Penguins have given them a lot to celebrate. Number 16, the Quebec Bulldogs, officially recognized as the Quebec Hockey Club and then the Quebec Athletic Club dating back to the 1880s. After being part of different Canadian leagues, the Bulldogs won 2 Stanley Cups in the National Hockey Association, a predecessor to the NHL. Quebec was one of the 4 founding members of the NHL in 1917. Financial issues combined with other circumstances prevented the franchise from playing in the league, before reforming as an expansion club and winning just 4 games during its lone 1919-1920 campaign. The franchise was sold by the NHL, which moved to Hamilton. Number 17, the Quebec Nordiques. Michael Goulet, Dale Hunter, and the Stastny brothers were just some of the legends to wear the famed Nordique sweater. The team won nearly 500 games and made the playoffs 9 times during their 16 seasons. However, based out of Quebec, a predominantly French-speaking city, the fans were not all that endearing to the non-French-speaking players. It was also the smallest market of any NHL city. With financial concerns, even with the team being successful, it still led to its move to Colorado, where the current Avalanche have won 3 Stanley Cups. Number 18, the St. Louis Eagles. When the previously mentioned Ottawa Senators decided to move to St. Louis, the plan was to make more money in a larger U.S. city. However, that never came to fruition, as the existence of the St. Louis Eagles only lasted for 1 season. They went 11, 31, and 6, finishing last in the Canadian division. After continuing to lose money, the NHL bought out the franchise and the players were distributed to other NHL teams. Number 19, the Toronto St. Patricks. In NHL terms, this was the beginning of the Toronto Maple Leafs. The St. Patricks were also known as the Toronto Blue Shirts and Toronto Arenas. They had 8 seasons in the NHL and are plausibly the most successful version of the franchise, leading up to the debut of the legendary Maple Leafs. The St. Patricks won a Stanley Cup in 1921-22, but like nearly every other team, financial issues struck the franchise during the mid to late 20s. It was sold to Conn Smythe, who quickly changed the name to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Number 20, the Winnipeg Jets. Before the current version of the original Winnipeg Jets franchise moved to Arizona, it was a huge staple. Part of the WHA-NHL merger, the Jets made the playoffs 11 times while in the NHL. They had levels of NHL success, but never made it to the conference finals. Meanwhile, usual financial issues, rising player salaries, and monetary status that affected small-market Canadian NHL clubs all led to the Jets' relocation. However, hockey returned to Winnipeg during the 2011-2012 season after the previously mentioned Atlanta Thrashers were relocated. Number 21, the Arizona Coyotes. The team began as the Winnipeg Jets in the WHA in 1972, known for signing superstar Bobby Hull. The Jets were one of 4 WHA teams to join the NHL in 1979. The franchise relocated to Phoenix in 1996 and initially went by the name Phoenix Coyotes. The team faced numerous financial difficulties, leading to the NHL taking over ownership in 2009 after then-owner Jerry Moyes filed for bankruptcy. The NHL eventually found new ownership for the team, and in 2014, they officially became the Arizona Coyotes. Despite efforts to secure a new arena in Arizona, the Coyotes' assets were sold in 2024, leading to the establishment of the Utah Hockey Club. The name of the team was changed yet again to begin the 2025-2026 season as the Utah Mammoth.